Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This time, we will be ranking all of the currently operating coasters at Carowinds, as well as a defunct one. So let's just jump right into this. Carowinds is a massive amusement park located just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. The park sits right on the border of North and South Carolina, with many taglines revolving around that fact. The park also tries to theme some of its attractions around Carolina history. The park currently has 13 operating coasters, with one under construction, and I have ridden one of their defunct coasters. Let's start off the list. At number 14, we have Kitty Hawk. This is a Vekoma hang and bang, and yeah, it sucks. It does nothing but bash your head around the whole way around the course. But the name is a nice motif to aviation, with the fact that the ride is themed to flying and Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, that had to do with the Wright brothers. At number 13, we have Wilderness Run. This is one of those small E&F Mylar kiddie coasters, which are perfect for kids, but not much more. At number 12, we have the now defunct Nighthawk. This was the original flying coaster, and an absolute marvel of engineering for its time. But the ride does not stack up to the more modern flyers. It starts by tilting riders back in a lay-down position that is incredibly uncomfortable as you climb the lift hill. Then it twists riders into a flying position and descends down the janky drop. The course consists of a few high turns and decently forceful valleys, plus a weird vertical loop, and corkscrews. But overall, the ride is just incredibly janky and poorly profiled, as well as bangs your shoulders around a lot. At number 11 is Carolina Cyclone. The ride is an old school aero looping coaster, and after my first ride, I said I'd never ride it again. But when I heard it got new trains from Vortex, I tried it again and found the ride to be just as terrible. After climbing the lift and going around a turn, the ride jankily descends the first drop before going into two janky back-to-back loops that have crazy headbanging. The train rises up and then turns and descends into two very headbangy corkscrews that just shake the whole time, and then the ride enters one tight helix that is, of course, janky, before hitting the brakes. Now, I love janky coasters, as we'll see by my number 5, but this kind of jank is bad. At number 10, we have Vortex. This is one of B&M's original coasters and is a stand-up. The ride would actually be fine if it wasn't so rough and headbangy. The stand-up trains aren't too bad, and the vertical loop has good forces, but the twisting high turn afterwards is incredibly headbanging, even with the B&M trick. Then comes a pretty forceful helix, but the ride just vibrates the whole time. Afterwards comes an incredibly headbangy corkscrew. Then there are two more tight turns and a snappy transition, which are just rough and provide even more headbanging. The ride actually isn't a bad layout considering its history, but it needs new track and trains. At number 9, we have Ricochet. This is a typical small park wild mouse, which I don't find to be absolutely awful. The turns up top provide great laterals, and some of the drops actually have decent airtime for a family coaster. This one had good trains, and I didn't find the trims to hit too hard either. At number 8, we have Hurler. This is an old school wooden coaster that people claim to be the most awful thing ever, but I don't hate it. The trains are comfortable, and the first half of the ride has good speed. The back half has actually decent forces in the helixes, and I love the name of the ride. I also just love the janky wooden coaster feel the ride has. This past year, the ride had moved down a few spots, because I found the jackhammering to be pretty bad, but it wasn't terrible. At number 7, we have Flying Cobras. This is an old school Vekoma boomerang that has received some brake and train upgrades with the new vest restraints, so no headbanging, but the ride does have the crappy transitions and rough second chain engage. But you can actually enjoy the forces in the valleys and the whippiness of the Cobra roll a little more thanks to the vests. At number 6, we have Woodstock Express. This is a PTC family woody, and yes, it's better than some of the large coasters. The ride is really smooth with comfy trains, and it pulls decent forces for a family coaster. The ride has some pretty good laterals and actually has some pops of airtime. It also has that wooden coaster feel, but it's relatively smooth and just an overall fun ride. Kicking off the top 5, we have the Carolina Gold Rusher. This is a classic Aero mine train and is very jank, but fun. The ride starts off with a nice calm pre-lift section before dipping off the lift and going in down a jankily fun drop. The train then transitions into a long and decently forceful helix and a trench that has some jerky banking and good forces. The train then climbs another lift. After dropping off the lift, the train rolls into a forceful helix drop that is really janky but fun before entering one more pretty crazy turn in a tunnel that pops up into the final brakes. At number 4, we have Afterburn. This is a super fun B&M invert. The ride paces a lot like the Bat clones, but is larger and has a more diverse layout. The ride starts with an amazingly whippy first drop into a forceful pull-up into a forceful vertical loop. The train then flies into a forceful and whippy Immelman. It then rises up into a whippy 0G roll and then a forceful and whippy Batwing that is one of the standout elements on the ride. Then comes a floaty airtime hill that gives riders a chance to breathe before a final whippy corkscrew and a power helix into the hard brakes. The ride is great, but it can have a slight rattle and some headbanging, so it just doesn't beat the top 3. For number 3, we have Copperhead Strike. This is a Mock Rides multi-launch coaster that was running phenomenal in 2021 and the winter of 2022, but wasn't running as powerful in the summer of 2024. That being said, the ride is still awesome. It starts with a slow JoJo roll out of the station with phenomenal hang time before rolling into a show scene. Then comes the decently punchy launch, depending on the year, into an insanely forceful pull-up, into a hang-time-filled vertical loop. Then there's a sharp airtime hill with sustained ejector airtime, before the train whips and rips into a corkscrew. Then comes some nice whippy twists and a powerful helix, before a turn into another sharp airtime hill with a great ejector pop, and then the second launch that has amazing airtime partway through and amazing airtime on the step-up. The inverted top hat afterwards has phenomenal hang time, before an insanely whippy turn into a great vertical loop. The train then rises up and down into something similar to a shangle dive, with amazing sustained ejector and whip before a phenomenal whippy transition, and more whippy transitions and power helixes, before a very sharp lateral ejector hill and one last pop into the brakes. The trains are super comfortable and the theming is decent. The ride has phenomenal power in all the valleys, and great pacing throughout. The ride would probably be number 1 if it was running as fast as the previous years, and the other 2 above it weren't running so phenomenally. At number 2, we have Thunder Striker. This is a long train B&M Hyper, and my favorite B&M Hyper to date. I got to ride the ride with Minimum Verify this past summer thanks to my belt bag, and this was an amazing experience. The back car just had amazing sustained flowjector on every hill. The first drop had phenomenal flowjector and absolutely insane forces on the pullout. The train then rises up into a high whippy turn with more great flowjector on the exit. Then comes the second best element on the ride after the first drop, and that is the first camelback. The element has amazing sustained flowjector throughout, from about a quarter of the way up to about a quarter of the way down. I was floating out of my seat. Then comes the powerful turnaround into 2 more smaller camelbacks with just as amazing airtime as the first. Then comes another power turn before popping up into the mid-course. The drop off the mid-course has straight ejector before the train rises up and dives down with an amazing floater pop into a powerful helix with amazing positive and lateral G-forces. The train then rises up and dips down with another strong ejector pop before popping up into the final brake run. The ride was running just phenomenal this year, and I can't wait to get on it again. And for the number 1 coaster at Carowinds, we of course have Fury 325. This ride is absolute perfection. The little bits of theming that it has are cool, and the B&M clamshells are the best restraints ever created. I also got to ride this on Minimum Verify, and it was amazing. The first drop just feels like it lasts forever, with you being out of your seat the whole time, especially with so much room. Then comes the insanely forceful pull-up where the ride is absolutely flying. The train then rises up into a high turn that has great whip and airtime. It then flies into a low-to-the-ground turn that twists while you are going 95 miles per hour, which provides absolutely phenomenal whip and a pop of airtime. The train then whips in the other direction and into an amazing wave turn with more airtime before forcefully ascending into the treble clef turnaround. This turnaround has great lateral and positive forces as well as airtime at the top. The train then dives down into a tunnel with the hive design that is phenomenal at night and pulls great forces. The ride pulls up into another low, snappy turn that has amazing whip and even more airtime before flying into a camelback with amazing sustained ejector. The train then flies into a forceful helix that some say is boring, but I think it pulls great forces and showcases the speed, especially in the front. The train then goes into another small camelback with more amazing sustained flow ejector, before a powerful turn into another mini camelback before one more turn and pop up into the brakes. But that is my list of the coasters at Carowinds. The park's top 3 is elite and top 5 is awesome. But once you get past the 5th coaster, it all just falls off. The flat ride collection is pretty good, and I love the new Aeronautica landing area the park opened up. The park is really nice aesthetically, but the coaster collection could use some work. But I hope you all enjoyed this one, and we'll see you all next time on another adventure.